too, so.
Yeah, they don't go anywhere.
Right.
Jeez.
Don't forget them, Jess.
Yeah, you know, they help, they have chores now.
Yeah.
How old are they?
7 and 4.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like at that age where they're just on the cusp of like actually being helpful and wanting to help.
Yeah.
So they're like somewhere in here where it's
Lots
kind
of
of
supervision.
half helpful, half like,
Yeah.
I'm just so proud of you. I'll clean that up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So you can probably help with chickens more than.
Yeah. Well, the chickens are easy. We set up an automatic
your
water
Oh,
and
okay.
the gravity feeders. You fill those every 2 days. The chickens are easy. And they have a little
Do you get a day?
13, 14.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, we have 25 hens, but
And you can't eat that much. How are you marketing?
friends and families come pick up $5 a dozen.
Zoning board members are included.
I mean, lots of
Maybe
I-
bring them to a zoning hearing?
Sure.
Yeah.
I have 600 heads of garlic I'm processing right now. So I get my blisters.
Oh, wow.
Getting ready for the fall. We try to put in.
How do you process garlic?
Well, we've been drying it. Now I
Mr.
gotta
Bird?
cut it.
Yes.
and
You have to
then-
turn the microphone on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can take it out of there. It's easier to use.
That's easier?
that way,
Okay.
Yeah.
What cross are you doing?
And then if you pull that little button, push it up,
Okay, there you go.
and then tap on it, make sure it's working.
We don't have enough
Yes,
space
it
for
is.
hay.
Okay,
You're good.
all right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, again.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting of the McHenry County Zoning Board of Appeals to order. This is application number 2022-032. It's part of PIN number 0105400007. The property consists of approximately 2.337 acres and is located on the east side of Lawrence Road, approximately 600 feet south of the intersection of Lawrence Road and State Line Road in Chemung Township. The address is 11410 Lawrence Road, Harvard, Illinois. The owner of record is Eric R. Bird, and the request is for a reclassification from A1 agricultural to A2 agricultural. Publish a certificate of publication from a newspaper is dated July 30th, 2022, and thereby meets the ordinance requirements. Affidavit of posting was signed and date posted was August 1, 2022, and thereby meets the ordinance requirements. Affidavit mailing was signed and date mailed was July 27th, 2022, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Survey has been checked against the petition. Legal notice and publication in the newspaper and all three match. Filing fees have been paid. The endangered species consultation was not required for this application. The McHenry County Soil and Water Conservation District report has been received. This time I'd like to introduce the members of the board. They'll indicate by a hand showing or something, so you know what we're talking about. Vicki Gardner from Dundee Township, Anea Kustra, Alden Township, Robert Kosen, Algonquin Township, Donald Smolinski, Grafton Township, David Stone, McHenry Township, and Jessica Beverly, Door Township. We mentioned the townships so that the record is clear that we comply with state law, which requires only one board member per township. At this time, there's no people in the audience. Apparently, we're going to proceed with just Mr. Bird. So you have to be put under oath. Will you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give herein will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say, I do.
I do.
Thank you. So are you prepared to kind of give us a little presentation as to what you're looking for and why you need it, and what the characteristics of your property are? It doesn't have to be totally exhaustive. We're going to ask you a lot of questions anyhow.
Okay, sure. Yes, I purchased the 63-acre farm that you can see part of it on that aerial or the screen there. There it is. Yeah, that's the outline of the entire property. I would like to keep as much of the farmland intact as I can. The house that you can see, which is on the first screen, was built in 1980 by the previous owners of the property. It's 2.3 acres or whatever you had mentioned on the survey. I would like to have the ability to possibly sell that home and 2.3 acres off of the farmland at some point down the road.
Right. So, questions from the board, starting with Jessica Beverly. Mrs. Beverly.
Thank you. So I noted in your application that the home was occupied until July 1st, 2022. It's not currently occupied?
That's correct.
Okay. Are you living on the property or are you living off?
No, I'm from Harvard originally. My parents live on State Line Road. I grew up just down the road. I own some farmland in the area, including this parcel. My parents own the parcel just south of it. So I'm debating if I'm going to keep the house or if I'm going to sell it. I have a real estate business in Dixon. I've got, stuff in Dixon, so it's an hour and a half to get here, but I spend a lot of time here. So I don't know what to do with the house yet, but I wanted to go through this process to see if I could at least, if I decide to sell it, I could have the ability to do that. So right now, no, the person just moved out around July 1st. It's vacant at the current time.
Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Mrs. Kustra.
I'm Mr. Bird. I'm very familiar with this area, having grown up in Harvard myself. And this is a very rural area. It looks like this home was built, what, like 1980s?
1980, yes.
Okay. And the well and septic are working on the property?
Yes.
Fine, and there's plenty of room for replacement of the septic on this
Correct.
2.33 acres. Yeah, and it looks like you've outlined it, exactly where the trees are and the yard is, trying to preserve as much of the farm field as possible. So this is just strictly the yard.
Yes,
And what was there
yeah,
previously.
there's trees all the way around it. I mean, it's kind of already by itself. It's somewhat separated from the rest of the farmland.
And as far as the surrounding area, you would agree that it's a rural area, and this would be like a rural residence for, anybody that just wanted to live out in the country.
Correct.
Yeah. Yep. I have no other questions. Thank you.
Ms. Gardner.
I have no questions.
Mr. I got the block in. Mr. Donald.
I have no questions.
Smolinski. Mr. Smolinski, that was. And Mr. Cozen.
Yes. How long have you owned the property?
Closed, I believe, May 18th.
And could you just expand on the difficulty or hardship that you are likely or experiencing by having this property in the present state?
Yes, right now it's not being occupied. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it going forward. I would like the ability to sell the property. I don't want it to sit there and just become overrun and have issues with the house freezing, whatnot, so I've got to make a decision on what to do with it. So that would be the reason for trying to sell it with the 2.33 acres, I guess.
Let me follow up a little,
Sure.
just following the approval standards for a map amendment. Again, recognizing you had said that you have a real estate business and your family and you are familiar with the property, what then attracted you to the property if it had these inherent hardships?
Well, it's directly adjoins some property that my parents own. I also own some other farmland in the area and farm as well. So my main purpose for purchasing it was the farmland aspect of it. The owner was not willing to sell it, to go through this process to sell the property. So therefore I had to buy it all as one package. So I don't necessarily have a need for the house at this point, an immediate need. So I want to have options to do something with it, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my questions.
Mrs. Kuster, would you like to cover the remaining standards?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Byrd, we have some approval standards that need to be met for a map amendment, so I just want to go through those with you. And the first is the compatibility of the proposed zoning with the existing use and zoning of nearby property. And some of this you addressed, I know, in your narrative, but if you would just, tell us, how compatible you think this is, like with the surrounding area for a rural home.
Yeah, there are already several other homes in the area on 2 to 5 acre lots. This building's never been used for livestock. There's no outbuildings, there's no pasture area. So having 2.3 acres versus 5 acres doesn't seem to be a real hardship. In fact, it might be a benefit to the next person or myself who has to try to mow it and maintain 2.3 acres versus 5 acres.
And you did meet a platted exception, correct, with this home dividing this off?
Yes, I think we did, correct?
Yes, do you want me to answer that now?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So from what I was able to find, it appears that that 5 acre parcel in the northwest corner was split off from the property around 1978. And I did find a recorded deed for the original parcel from 1952. So this would be the second split from that original parcel, which would meet one of the Plat Act exemptions.
Okay, thank you for that, Kim.
Thanks for that.
So the second one is the extent to which the property values of the subject property are diminished by the existing zoning. So I guess that would just be, if it stated as A1, you couldn't sell it off as a home and...
Correct. The next buyer would have to buy it with the 63 acres, which not everybody that wants to buy a home in the country needs 63 acres to go with it, of course.
And the extent to which the public health, safety, and welfare of the public are promoted by the existing zoning. There's really no difference whether it's A1 or A2 regarding that, right? It's a rural residence.
Correct.
The relative gain to the public as compared to the hardship imposed upon the applicant if the proposed zoning is denied. Basically, you just won't be able to sell the home correctly.
Correct, right. Or I'd have to add more acreage, which may be more difficult for people to maintain and causes more problems sometimes also.
The suitability of the property for the purposes to which it's presently zoned.
It seems to be suited okay, I guess.
Well, if you can't sell it, there are problems with it, so you meet that condition, I believe.
Okay, yes. Thanks.
And the length of the time the property has been vacant, it's not vacant, it's a home. And the community need for proposed use, that would be for rural residences. You think there's a need that people would want to be able to buy this house in the country?
I would assume so. It seems to be a pretty low inventory of homes for available.
And the consistency of the proposed amendment with the adopted comprehensive plan and the appropriate, are you familiar with the comprehensive plan of the county?
I haven't really studied it. I'm not sure if it's in this packet or not.
Well, it's listed as promoting this as, I think, agriculture and, an agricultural area. So you would agree that this would still be an agricultural type area?
Correct. That's my purpose, to try to maintain as much ag land as possible.
The report of the staff is evidence in this case, and they've covered that as well.
So that's all the standards we have. So, and for an A2, it has an existing residence on it, so we don't need to ask you about that, so it meets all those standards. So,
I take it there's no one else on the board seeking to ask a question. Any question from staff?
I don't have any questions.
Any further testimony from staff?
Just repeating that it is consistent with the 2030 plan as well as the existing uses and zoning. Staff doesn't have any objections to the request.
Okay, we have to cover one thing with you, Mr. Bird. Our number is normally 7. We only have 6 today because there were problems with people making the meeting. So what that means to you is if you want a decision today, you'd have to waive the requirement that we have 7 people make a decision. But you can, if you waive that, you need 5 yes votes to get a favorable recommendation to the county board. So you have 6 members here that you probably could cultivate 5 or 6 votes.
Sure, yes.
So what is it that you'd like to do with that? Would you?
I would waive the 7-person requirement.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm going to close the hearing on the petition, on the application, and then I'll open the voting meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the zoning from A1 to A2.
So moved. I'll second.
Moved by Mrs. Kustra, seconded by Ms. Gardner. Discussion, starting with Ms. Kustra.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this is the classic A2 zoning for the county. This parcel was split off in 1978. This home was then built in 1980. It's part of a larger tract of land, which is on excellent farmland, and so the petitioner is trying to preserve as much of that farmland as possible by just using the 2.33 acres where the home is located. It's in a very rural area of McHenry County, the very northeast part of McHenry County. In a rural area, this will not make any changes to the development in that area. There's a lot of rural residences on 2 to 5 acres, and so this fits right in. It meets the Plat Act exception. It's supported by the land use plan, and I'm in favor of the request.
Mr. Cozen, discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going back over the approval standards for a map amendment, this certainly is a classic. One of the elements, of course, is what is referred to as a reclassification, yet more appropriately a map amendment. The exhibit of the zoning map shows no nearby other A2. The balance test of a hardship, the record seems somewhat shallow, and with that, therefore, I will not be supporting this petition.
Mr. Smolinski, Mr. Smolinski.
I agree with the comments that Ms. Kustra has put forward. This is echoing a classic A1 to A2 petition, and I will be supporting it.
Mrs. Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo what Ms. Kuster said. I also think that it's important that we don't push anybody who doesn't want to be a landlord into being a landlord, and that we make the property available to go on the market. We do have a low inventory right now, and I think that it's important to recognize that we need to make housing available. Thank you.
Mrs. Kustra? Oh, you already spoken. Mrs. Gardner?
I like this nice, neat piece of property. It's exactly what we look for in an A2, a little smaller than usual, of course, but I understand the reasoning behind your request for that. I would say that going down Lawrence Road, you would not notice any difference whatsoever if this was A1 or A2. There's going to be no changes at all. So I'm definitely in favor of this.
And I'm in favor of this petition as well. I don't see the standards in the same frame of mind that Mr. Cozen does, but I appreciate his diligence in looking at these things. But I think it would be a disservice to a citizen of our county, our landowner at least of our county, and I'm going to vote in favor of it. I'm going to call the question. Mrs. Gardner?
Yes.
Mrs. Kustra?
Yes.
Mr. Cozen?
No.
Mr. Smolinski?
Yes.
Mrs. Beverly?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. It'll go to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll go to the board with a 5-1. It'll be recommended to the board on a 5-1 vote. This concludes the voting portion of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Is that all I need from you then? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That was a shock.